Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host who is passionate about the intersection of sports and business, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. I'm Sean Callanan, and welcome to episode 345 of Sports Geek. On this week's episode, I've got a special Seed Conference interview replay with David Michael, the CIO for the LA28 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I really enjoyed catching up with David at Seed and really enjoyed the conversation. I know you will too. You might be listening to this podcast on your favourite podcast platform. Mine is Pocket Cast, but we are available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts and the like. But you can also find all things podcast at sportsgeekhq.com. That's where all of the episodes live. That's where all the links are. That's where all the show notes are. So if you're ever looking for a podcast, there are now over 340 episodes on sportsgeekhq.com. As always, you can contact me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com or at Sean Callanan on X and Instagram, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Don't forget also to do with Seat, check out the Sports Geek Amplify series where I interviewed some of the partners with the Seed Conference, and you can check them out at sportsgeekamplify.com. Some really great solutions for the sports tech industry. I really do hope you enjoy my chat with David Michael as much as I did. Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast. We're coming live from Seed Conference in Salt Lake City. So for those in the room, thank you very much for subscribing. And for those who are listening who haven't been at Seed, we'll see you at Seed next year. I'm really happy to welcome David Michael. He is the CIO, nearly gave you an upgrade there, David, CIO for LA28, which will be hosting the Olympics and Paralympics in 5 years' time. David, welcome to this live Sports Geek podcast interview.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, Sean.
Terrific. So the way I normally start these podcasts is I ask people how they got their start in sports. So how did you first get your foray into sports?
It was way back in 2016, and I was lucky enough after a long career in B2B to get an opportunity to go and work for Madison Square Garden Company. And that was an amazing opportunity which launched me into sports and entertainment. And I realized that the B2B trade show business, which I thought was actually quite a lot of fun and really interesting, it's a lot more fun when you can really walk in the shoes of a customer and you realize that you're in the fun business.
And especially at Madison Square Garden, people know it as the iconic venue, but it's more than that, and it's multiple venues. And from a CIO point of view, like you said, first foray into sports, like taking in the sports venue piece, which has been discussed here at Seed a lot, but then also the other parts of MSG.
Yeah, it's because there were 7 venues, and so we owned venues which could be sporting venues and also concert venues. And we also owned the teams in the buildings. So in New York, that's the Knicks and the Rangers. And in Radio City Music Hall, which is an MSG venue, we also owned the Radio City Rockettes. So it was a real wide range of commercial enterprises, both buildings and content. And there's just so much you can do with technology, and it touches every aspect of the business and the fan experience. It just makes it a huge amount of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then after MSG, you went to the XFL as Chief Technology Officer, a startup sports league. That would have been an eye-opening experience and a fun ride in some instances. What was that like?
Well, it was a big change from going from a large public company, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, which was MSG, to a tiny startup We were literally 6 people in the tech team at the XFL, and we all had to really roll up our sleeves and dive in to make it work. That was a lot of fun. It was long days, and in fact, in the 3 months before kickoff in February 2020, we were all working 7 days a week, long hours, but it was just so much fun. You go to work and you're just around incredibly passionate people that talk non-stop about football, and everyone's having a great time. And it really is very infectious, and I loved it. It was unfortunate that our first season was in 2020, kicking off in February, not the best time to do that. We got halfway through the season before COVID sadly shut us down. And for any business, dealing with COVID is challenging in the events business, and for a startup, doubly so. So sadly, we didn't survive. We went into Chapter 11, and then I sort of resigned myself to that was the best job I'm ever going to have. It's never going to be as good as that. And then I landed this gig.
Yeah, spoiler alert. David turned out okay because he's now the CIO at LA28, which is for those who don't know, it's the organising committee, and the way that the Olympics and the World Cup, it's always the local organising committee that runs the games. So you started there in 2021. Like LA2028, it's a big project. What was your starting point again? Because when you're with the organising committee, it's like a startup because everyone gets hired and you're trying to fill all the key roles. Do you know what number employee you were at LA28?
I should know that. I think I was 101, something like that. So we are truly a startup. We started from zero. Our sole purpose is to put on the 2028 Games in Los Angeles. That's both the Olympic and Paralympic. So we don't really think of ourselves as a company. We're a non-profit organization. We're self-funded. So all of the money that we spend, we have to go and earn it first. Primarily, our revenues come from TV rights, which is the one gift that we get from the IOC. Sponsorship, which we have to hit the road and go sell that, and from ticket sales. So we have no burden on the Los Angeles taxpayer or the US taxpayer, unlike every other games around the world. So, as I said, completely self-funded. And joining in 21 was literally drinking from the fire hose. Within a week, I was on a plane heading to Tokyo to experience the delayed 2020 Tokyo Games. And that was an amazing experience to go to, and it really sort of hit me right between the eyes what the Olympics is about. And scale. The scale is the one thing which you just don't really quite realize how big it is. And even though there were no fans in Tokyo. It's a major operation. And we took the time when we were out there for 3 weeks to really try and learn as much as we could from them of what it takes to deliver the games. And one of the first things that really hits you is that when you're around people that have worked in the Olympic movement, they speak a different language. It's almost like Greek. They have a terminology and acronyms for everything, and it's different from everything else. So when you're sitting around them and it's week 2, and you're desperately trying to make notes of what everyone is talking about, and you have no idea what they're talking about. And they've got 3-letter acronyms for absolutely everything. And some people in the Olympic world use the 3-letter acronym slightly differently from other people. So it's really tough. But we were very lucky. We had some people who have worked games before walking around with us and literally translating, not from Japanese, but from Olympic speak to English.
I was going to ask that because there is a lot of folk that do
in the major event space and in the Olympic space that go from event to event. I've got friends that do the same thing on the tennis circuit and will, go to the work at the different opens. But there's a big fraternity of people who just keep working the Olympics, but they're not working for the IOC. They're working from organising committee and organising committee. Is there a lot that you're getting, not just the translations of the three-letter acronyms? Are they sort of trying to show the ropes? Because it's its own world, isn't it, the Olympics?
Yeah. A lot of the people that have been hired by LA28 are people that actually don't have games experience, me included. And we did that by design because one of the things we want to avoid doing is doing a sort of rinse and repeat of how previous games have operated. But obviously we have to work with people that have done it before so we can gain from their experience about what's successful and things you might want to do differently. So there are Olympic nomads who literally go from games to games to games. There may be some here. And spending time with them is a wonderful thing because what you realize is they have taken some extra special drug and they are absolutely hooked and they are incredibly passionate about it. And that passion is infectious. It truly is. And for anybody that came to the session that Fraser was having in this room yesterday and hearing about the 2002 Salt Lake City Winter Olympics, you will have felt that passion from Fraser, and it really exists in anybody that's been involved in the game. So you absolutely have to have some of those people around, and we're lucky enough that we've got a couple of consultants on our team that have games experience, and they're helping us. And we have a small handful now of people that are full-time working for us that have that experience. We're also very lucky, actually, that we've got some athletes. So we've got some Olympians and Paralympians now that work for LA28. And in fact, I'm very proud of the fact that the first Olympian that we hired actually came into technology. And this chap, he doesn't have a degree. He doesn't have any formal technical training at all. He's a fencer. He's a medal winner. And you will not meet somebody that works as hard, has as much passion, cares deeply about the quality of his work, that he sets the gold star for everyone else to follow. And the fact that he doesn't have that experience is not a problem. He'll go and learn it. If he doesn't understand something, he'll go and learn it with a passion. And so having people that are athletes from the games working with us is such an eye-opener because it really helps you understand what this is actually all about. I mean, you've got athletes that devote their whole lives to going to the Olympics or Paralympics. They are incredibly underpaid if they get anything at all. The average income for a US Olympian is $15,000 a year. That's the average amount that they get. You hear about the elite, super elite ones that get amazing multi-million-dollar sponsorship deals. That is the exception. So they don't get paid to go to the Olympics. They don't get money for winning a gold medal. And once they've finished and they retire, you can understand why mental health is a challenge for athletes because what do I do now? I put my whole life into this. What am I going to do now? And so one of the things that we're doing, attempting to do, I should say, at LA28 is to help athletes to work out what is the next thing they're going to do and how can we help set them up for the future.
That's terrific. I mean, a lot of Olympic Games and big events always look at that legacy piece. And a lot of it's always infrastructure. It's like, how can we put in new stadium or how can we fix some roads? But like the legacy piece of, having athletes, one, have a great experience, but then also help them later in life is a tremendous legacy. I want to ask you, just give it, you talked about scale. What is the remit as CEO for the Olympics and Paralympics? What are the things that you have to start fitting in that budget that's only 5 years away?
So what makes this job super fun is that technology literally touches every single part of the games. And that's just an amazing thing. So just to give you a flavor of some of the things that we have to get involved with. Well, first of all, we're a startup. We're 140 people. So we've got to do the standard stuff you've got to do for a small startup company. You've got to have an accounting system, an HR system, an email system, a network with Wi-Fi and tech support, all that stuff. So we've got to do that. And now we're going to scale. So by 2028, we'll have probably about 5,000 full-time employees, the same again in contractors, and we'll have about 100,000 volunteers. So we're going to scale from 140 people to 10,000 people with offices and all the stuff that goes with it. So that's one track of stuff we've got to do. Now there's the games. So all of the technology that everyone in this room knows and worries about every day, about ticketing and Wi-Fi and DAS and fan experience and IPTVs and all that stuff. We've got to do all that. And we also have to do things like timing and scoring. So if you're an NFL team, you don't need to worry about timing and scoring. Somebody else worries about that. Well, we've got to worry about that, and we've got to worry about it for all the sports and disciplines that we do, and there are a lot. And we haven't actually locked down yet which sports and disciplines we're going to do. We'll do that later this year. So there's timing and scoring, which is obviously super mission critical. You can't say, oh, terribly sorry, need you to run that race again.
Especially a marathon.
you can't do that. So there's timing and scoring. And then you've got to get the content up onto the video boards. So you've got to get the video feeds from the field of play. You've got to get the results and the scores. And you've got to do that for every sport and discipline. And you're doing it in a venue that may be one that's different from what it normally is. So in SoFi Stadium, for example, which is one of our venues, we will not have American football being played in SoFi Stadium. We will have another sport. So the amazing displays that you have in SoFi Stadium, are they actually going to work for that particular sport and that configuration? Well, in that case, they probably will do, but maybe another stadium like the Coliseum, which is one of ours, the displays there may not be the right one. So we're going to have to bring in displays, the physical hardware, and then we've got to manage all that content and get it up on the displays. Then there's all the applications to make all the back office stuff work. So we've got things like accreditation. We'll have 500,000 accredited people working the games. So that's a lot of accreditation. And there'll be security checkpoints at every stadium. We're going to build around the stadiums a 9-foot wall, because security is absolutely paramount. So that's the accreditation system. Then we've got accommodations. We are already doing deals with hotels in Los Angeles to lock up hotel nights. We're going to be holding 1 million hotel nights in hotels across Los Angeles. So we're building a accommodations management system where we can manage all of that inventory and then allow different stakeholder groups, because this is those rooms are not for fans, they're for people working the games, so that the different types of stakeholders, the Olympic Committee for Venezuela, who want a bunch of rooms, they can come in and book the type of hotel that they want and all be together. So we need an accommodation management system to do that. We need a ticketing system. So it just goes on and on and on. And so the scope of what we have to do is it's just enormous. And to tell you the truth, this is why I absolutely, I said yes within about 5 seconds on this job, because it's, you do this in the sports and entertainment world for one venue, and you realize how hard this is going to be. And now you've got to do it for 35 venues. You realize, wow, this is going to be interesting.
Well, I'm just tired listening to that list. So how do you 5 years out, how do you break that down to set out a plan? Because you've got probably a ginormous whiteboard of all these things that need to be tackled in their different tracks, whether it's the admin back office, the official scorekeeping piece, the fact that you're effectively building your own booking.com that's just going to be internal to the Olympics team. How do you start getting that plan in place, getting the resources in place, when to be pulling those levers? How does that master plan look, and how do you sort of set that out?
One of the great things that the IOC, which is the governing body for the Olympics, did is they give you a sort of a blueprint of how other games have done things, and that's actually hugely beneficial, because it's a starting point. But when you actually look at what they've got, you immediately realize, gosh, that's not going to work for us, but it's so much easier than starting with a blank sheet of paper.
Yep.
And so what was critical when I joined was to work out what is the minimum team I need to be able to get this thing going. Because on my own I can't do anything, and I've got to get some smart people around me who can actually start putting these things in place. So, my initial priorities, and to tell you the truth, my ongoing priorities, to make sure we've got a really great team of people that are working on this. So things like project management, program management, cyber security. The small team that we have that looks after our small business back office systems, those were some really key things that we needed to put in place. We've just put in place now somebody that's responsible for all of our games applications, and so they're now running with that. We're looking for a ticketing partner. We're looking for our accommodations management system partner, and that's really the other thing about what we're doing, because we only exist for a moment in time. We only exist through the end of 28. We all know the day we're going to get fired. We're not actually, our mission is not to actually build anything. When I say build, I don't mean buildings, because we're not building buildings. 75% of our venues already exist, and the other 25 will be temporary. I don't want to build any technical infrastructure, because we don't want to own anything. And as you said, when the games are over, we want to leave a positive legacy behind us. So we don't want to leave lots of stuff that somebody has to go and do something with. It's really important that we try and think about ways in which we can do things in a different way. And the way in which we really do that is with having great partners. And we're lucky enough to have signed up people like Salesforce, Deloitte, that are helping us with some of our software and some of our processes, so that we don't have to create things from scratch, and it will allow us to scale.
How important is that, getting all of those, because you're not building a master system? How important is integration and getting those systems working together? Like, that's the secret sauce a lot of the time. If you're getting different systems, but we need you to talk to one another. That's going to be some fun times ahead, I guess, for you.
Yeah, as anybody that works with technology, you know that getting a system up and running is usually the easy bit. The hard bit is getting people to use it and then connecting it to everything else you need to connect it to. That's where the real work is. And so when you talk to people about things like a finance system, the first thing they say is, well, what systems do you want to integrate it with? And it's very easy to fall into the trap of saying, well, these are all the other systems we've got, so we've got to integrate it with CRM and this, that, and the other. And we're having to be really cautious about that, because for most organizations, it makes absolute sense to integrate all these things and fully automate how they work. And if we were going to exist in perpetuity, you would do those things. But sometimes, you say, well, actually, how often are we really, really going to need to move the data from this system to this system? And could we actually do it with an Excel spreadsheet and a person and do that as efficiently and probably more cost effectively than paying for the integration? So there's some very interesting things which you wouldn't normally think about doing simply because of the situation that we're in, and because we use as our guiding light. Our mission is not to build a world-class infrastructure. Our mission is to put on a world-class games. Now, and we're going to want to make sure that all of the systems and processes we put in place are sufficient to enable us to do that. Now, we want to have an amazing experience for our fans, our athletes, and all the other stakeholders. But all the systems behind it need to be just good enough to achieve that.
So where does that leave you with, a lot of teams and a lot of people looking to innovate and use the latest tech? And technology changes all the time. It's a bit hard to, I don't know if anyone said, be where the puck is going to be. It has to be a conference. You have to talk about where the puck is. Things like generative AI has only popped up in the last, 8 months, really. Are there things that you want to do that are either new, or how do you tackle that with but also have that cautious nature of we want a great experience for the games? How do you tackle some of these newer trends that are coming through, and are they things that you can have a nibble at or figure out how you might use something like generative AI?
No, absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to learn about what are the things that people are doing. Yesterday, it was exactly 5 years to opening ceremony. It's the 14th of July, 2028. So 5 years is a long time. What's going to happen in 5 years? What is technology going to look like? And one of the lines I love using right now is, people talk about Wi-Fi 6, 6E, Wi-Fi 7. And so I say, well, is Wi-Fi even going to be a thing in 2028? Is every laptop just going to come with 5G built in, and you've got an eSIM, and who wants to muck about with Wi-Fi anymore? So, and I think that's true of so many different technologies. So, absolutely fascinated by ChatGPT. Is it going to play a part in what we do? Absolutely. The stuff that Satisfy and other people are doing with chatbots. Yeah, I want some of that. We're going to have hundreds of thousands of stakeholders that will want questions answered. And we can't afford, and we can't do it at scale for that moment in time, have human beings doing that. So 80 to 90% ChatGPT, you handle it. 10% will have humans doing it. So sign me up for that. Private 5G, everyone's talking about it. No one's really doing it yet. No one's worked out what the use cases are. Are we going to use 5G? Absolutely. I think it's going to be all over the games. I think we'll use it at scale. It has huge opportunity. So is there other tech that's just around the corner? I'm interested. I want to know about it. I want to know what people are doing about it. It has huge potential for us. Now, this is the challenge. We don't want to be first. We do not want to be first to use a technology. We'll be second, but not first. So as long as somebody else has done it, they've done it at scale, and they can prove that they've made it work at scale and it's robust, then I'm really interested. And the other challenge is when do we lock it in? Because there will come a point at which we lock it in, and making changes will be really tough. And that lock-in actually is earlier than you think, because although the games are in 28, in 2027, we will have test events. And those test events will be real live sports events with real athletes doing real competition on real live TV, but using the Olympic systems and processes and people. So that's a year ahead. So now it's not 5 years, it's 4 years. So the window of opportunity to actually lock some of this stuff in is actually rapidly reducing.
And you talked about going to Tokyo in your first 6 months of being in the gig. Paris is not far away now. What will you be looking for when you go to Paris and seeing your counterparts at the Paris organising committee, what they're doing? Like, what will you be looking for? I mean, we all go to venues all the time, and half of us, we're not watching what's on the court or on the field. We're looking at the boards and how they're being commercialised, and we're logging onto the Wi-Fi and checking if it works. Will you be a bit of be in that sort of secret shopper CIO mode when you're at Paris?
Well, I'm lucky enough. In 2 weeks' time, I'm going to Paris. They have their test events. Paris is next year in 2024. They have test events that are taking place in August. So I'm going to triathlon, which will be interesting. And I'm going to be there checking the speed of the Wi-Fi and sitting in their technical operations center, seeing how that works, meeting with their cybersecurity people, working out how they're handling that. Meeting with the timing and scoring team, which is from Switzerland, and they will be supporting us, so learning how they're doing things. So it's a unique opportunity for us. It's the last summer games before ours. So that's it. That's my one last chance to see it in action and learn. So we'll actually be sending quite a large chunk of the tech team to Paris. And some people will be actually seconded to work the Paris Games and actually take an active role in supporting it. And so they come away with muscle memory and really get a good understanding of what it takes to do it. And this is sort of one of those things where everyone is playing it forwards. So we are offering up people for free to Paris to help them and get them ready. And in turn, the summer games after us is Brisbane. So we will be counting on them to be sending some people to come to Los Angeles and help us to get ready. So, we will absolutely be learning from them. We'll also be learning from Milan Cortina. That's 2026. That's the Winter Games. Obviously, Winter Games is a different set of sports. It's a different configuration. It's a bit smaller than the Summer Games. So, but there are still lots of things that we can learn. So we do take advantage of those. And also, we do actually go to other multi-event sporting events. So last year, a bunch of us went to the UK for the Commonwealth Games that took place in Birmingham. That was a great opportunity for us to learn what it takes to do that. And a lot of the people working there worked for the London 2012 Olympic Games. So we were able to hang around with people who work Olympic Games, now working at Commonwealth Games, and they could tell us about the differences between the two. So there's actually a surprising number of places where we can go and learn about what it takes to do this.
One of the themes that Josh has really instilled for Seat in this reboot has been customer experience. And you've got that, again, at multiple levels. You've got what does the athlete experience look like? What does the volunteer experience look like? And then the fan experience is very different for Olympic Games. Like a lot of the discussion here has been, people going into your venue, but they're doing it, 7 times or 41 times, and they've got familiarity. But with Olympic Games, the world attends, and you'll have 90, probably more % turning up to an event that have never been to one of these venues. So, like that customer that experience across those multiple pieces, how does that shape some of the things that you are going to look to deliver to make sure that experience, matches, like you said before, the efforts on the field from those athletes that have, spent their life to get to that position?
It's going to be challenging. I'll be really honest with you. And that's another reason why I'm here, is to try and learn what is the best you can possibly do, and what are the tools you can use to help do that. Because of the Olympic context, it actually, in some respects, degrades the fan experience because security is so tight, because the volume of people is so enormous. Things like transport. We're going to set up a whole transport team. One of their things that they're going to be doing is we are going to every municipality across the US and saying to them, when you're going to, on your plans for buying more buses, please can you time it so that you buy new buses to arrive January 2028? And can you please loan them to us for a few months? And then we'll give them back to you. Because we need 3,000 buses to move people around Los Angeles, because you're not going to be allowed to drive to SoFi Stadium or the Coliseum and park your car to go to the event there. You're going to have to take an Olympic bus. So that's a big change for people, especially Angelenos. They're not used to that. And so we have to educate them. We have to set up the systems. We have to help people understand, okay, I'm going to go to this event. What are my options? Where's my park and ride from where I live? Where's the other transit systems I can interface into? And joining those dots, I don't have the answers. We know there's a problem. Wouldn't it be great if we knew the flight that somebody was coming on and when they're arriving, so that we could make sure that we have people at LAX. LAX will actually be an LA28 venue. We will have accreditation stations airside in LAX. It'll be on our network, so that when people arrive, wouldn't it be great if we knew that they're arriving? Oh, you're an Olympic person. Oh, we know you're staying in this hotel. We go to this place where you can get on the shuttle bus that will take you to your hotel. And we know you've got these tickets to go to these events. So we'll tell you where to go to get your transport to get to that event. Oh, and by the way, we've got some activations you can go and see. You should go to the new COSM 360 immersive experience, because you're going to SoFi Stadium. It's right next door. So go 3 hours before, go to COSM, have some fun, see some interesting stuff, and then go to SoFi Stadium. So wouldn't it be great if we could join those dots and make it a seamless experience for somebody? Now, I haven't worked out how to do it yet, but that's the vision of how we would like to use technology to create an amazing fan experience. And I think it's possible. All the ingredients are out there. I mean, we've all been hearing about it the last 2 days, but the trick is going to be joining the dots.
So like you said, 5 years away from the opening ceremony for the Olympics, and then following that, you'll have the Paralympics. So what does the end deliverable look like for your team? What's going to be those that is a 6 week period where you'll effectively be in delivery mode?
So as I said, it's the 14th of July is opening ceremony. There's 17 days of the Olympics, and then we have a closing ceremony. We then have 2 weeks to do a changeover from the Olympics to the Paralympics. Paralympics is less sports, less venues, but still just as important. And so we have to reconfigure a bunch of venues, reconfigure the transport system. Lots of things have to change. Lots of branding changes from Olympic rings to the Paralympics agitos, they're called. So we've got 2 weeks to do that. And then there's 13 days of Paralympics. So end to end, so that finishes then on the 29th of August. So we've got basically a month and a half of continuous work. And that's not counting the lead up to it. So it's going to be, it really is a marathon. And some of the roles and functions we have will literally be 24/7. Our Technical Operations Center, which will be the mastermind NASA control center, will have about 300 to 400 seats in there for all the different technology functions. That will be staffed 24/7. And then for individual stadiums, most of them will be staffed from 6 a.m. till probably 2 a.m. So we'll have multiple shifts in every venue, and we'll have full teams on site at every one. I said 35 field of play stadium. We'll probably have about 150 non-sporting venues, everything from the Athletes Village at UCLA 14,000 athletes, through to transport hubs for handling all those buses, to warehouses where we'll store food for feeding the athletes. They eat a lot of food. We'll have an enormous cafeteria which will be open 24/7 for the athletes. So we're going to have a very big tech team. The tech team in terms of full-time employees is going to be around 500. We've just done our first modeling of what our staffing looks like. So it'll be about 500 full-time people. We'll probably have about 2,500 contractors working in technology. And we think we're going to have about 20,000 technical volunteers who will be in venues supporting. So yeah, it's going to be big.
And so to wrap up, a lot of people here will have KPI dashboards. What does success look like for them, and what does success look like for the LA28 team from a technology point of view?
I think there are a number of KPIs that we're going to have that we're going to look at. Cybersecurity is one of those unsexy but really, really important things. We have a massive dartboard on our backs, including nation states who want to screw things up. So not having any cyber issues, that's a pretty good KPI. Making sure that fundamentally everything works is going to be super critical. One of the things we will be accountable for is the network which delivers all the TV signals. We'll have 3,000 dark fiber connections between all of the stadia back to the International Broadcast Centre. There'll be 30,000 members of the press and broadcast who will be working the games and making sure that they all have the things they need so that the fans watching at home don't have a problem. So, but sort of boiling that down, that's sort of the minimum bar, is that there aren't any problems. What the stretch goal that we've set ourselves is, and we want to make sure that it's the best experience we can possibly do for all the stakeholders. And your point is a very valid one, because we don't just think about the fans. There's a lot of them. We'll sell 12 million tickets. But there's all of those other people, the 15,000 athletes, the 30,000 press and broadcasters, all of the athlete families. We heard that yesterday from Fraser. The athlete families, they care so deeply about their sons and daughters that are competing, and the poor old athletes are stressed that their parents haven't got tickets, and they really want to come and see their room where they're sleeping. I mean, it sounds so basic, but they really want to do that. Parents want to do that. It's a natural thing. But we have such high security in the athlete village. We make it so hard for them to go and visit their own kids. So there's just things where technology can help. If we had a booking system that allowed the families to say, on this date and time, I want to go and see my child, can I get the pass to get into the athlete's village? If we had a system that allowed that to happen, as opposed to ringing your friend, we could actually improve that experience. So we've got a baseline we need to hit so that the games work. And by the way, we have to do that within our budget, which is a bit of a challenge. And also, we want to make it a great experience.
Well, terrific. Well, hopefully we'll move seat in 2028. We'll pull it forward. We'll have seat, and then we'll come down and celebrate what will be a successful LA 2028 games. Can everyone here please thank David? Appreciate you taking the time, and look forward to the 28 games.
Learn from the Sports Geek Amplify Season 2 cohort. Trajectory, Extenet, SeatGeek, Sponsor CX, and Stats Perform. For more, go to sportsgeekamplify.com.
Thanks again to David Michael. Please reach out to him on LinkedIn when I share this on LinkedIn to say thank you. Thank you for the episode, and thank you for the interview. If you were lucky enough to catch up with him at Seat and discuss the different issues, it's a massive job he's got ahead of him, 5 years to do it. I look forward to seeing you execute on that, David. You can also reach out to him on Twitter, or X as it's now known, David_Michael is his Twitter handle. Before I wrap up today, I just wanted to talk about, this episode came from Seat Conference, is I guess how I can be involved, how Sports Geek can be involved, how I can be involved in conferences and events, and how if you've got an event coming up, whether it be a conference like Seat or whether you've got a sponsor event where you want to have your sponsors better understand how digital can deliver for them, I sort of want to outline some of the options that I can do. I can still do keynote speaking, like everyone, had the COVID break where I wasn't on stage for a little while, but more than happy to either curate a keynote for your audience. I can talk about digital to dollars, how to build fan bases that you can commercialize. I can talk about digital fan engagement best practice, so sharing different case studies from around the world. I can share my experiences in the world of esports and gaming and what that could offer, and some of the upsides and some of the downsides, because I've been able to live through it. Or be more tactical and do a session where I help people understand how to best leverage LinkedIn, how to make connections, how to share content, how to really have a B2B strategy, because LinkedIn's been a really powerful platform for myself. And then also, if you've got an athlete group that needs to have a better understanding of how to use social media, I've got a few different athlete playbooks that I can run through. Lucky enough to do some training with a lot of the women that were in the Matilda squad. I've done sessions with them at the past, other Olympic squads, with AFL squads as well. So if that's something that you want your athletes to be in their best behaviour online, but also understand how they can take advantage of a platform, more than happy to do those kind of keynote speaking. Also, happy to do things like I did with Josh at Seat and have a feature interview and effectively a live podcast interview at the conference. I really enjoyed that as a format. I think one-on-one conversations allow you to get a little bit more depth than potentially a panel that can be spread a little thin. I'm happy to moderate panels. I like doing them, but I do think the one-on-one conversation allows for a little bit more depth, which sometimes conferences don't really get into. And then lastly is workshops. So one of the workshops I ran at Seat was solving digital's biggest problems. And really it was just a facilitated discussion throughout the room. And it was a nice change, both for me as a presenter, but I think also for the room, because it got them up and about, got them engaged, got them talking to different people in the room that they hadn't been talking to, and got some of those sparks happening. So whether they were ideas being transferred from different sports, from different teams, how other people had solved particular problems. I think it's a really good change-up for a conference to have a few different formats, so it's not all panels, it's not all keynotes. So those facilitated workshops can work really well. And then, I don't mind getting up on stage. So if you need an MC or someone to drive a little bit of crowd work, I'm more than happy to. So if you're running a conference or running an event and you'd like me to attend and like me to participate, and do everything that I do, which is when I'm at an event, I'm fully into an event, so I share everything around it. Please get in touch, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. I'm already looking forward to returning to Seat next year, and a few discussions with Josh already. Some really exciting plans for the next 12 months with Seat. So if you'd like me to partner with your conference, let me know. Other than that, until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Looking to help your digital or sponsorship team? Book in for a Pick My Brain session with Sean Callanan to help your team level up. Book now at sportsgeekhq.com/pickmybrain. Want to help drive more revenue from your digital efforts? Book a time for a call. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call.